Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to have a look at another beer from my home county here of Skåne in the very south of the country. And this one is a collaboration between two Malmö based breweries. One of these breweries featured on the channel a good number of years back and I just haven't reviewed anything from them since because I haven't seen their beers in a long time, and the second brewery were actually mentioned briefly in my Malmö Beer Week beer that I reviewed quite recently, so it will be nice to give these guys a little bit more airtime, and apparently you will see more of this brewery over the next little while as well. So for this review then we are going to go back to Chad Beer and we're having a look at their collaboration with Elmeleven, if I can pronounce it correctly. So this particular beer is called the Elements. It's a double dry hopped lager coming in at 5.7% ABV with Mosaic and Eldorado in it. But this beer of course is brewed at Lilla Ölfabriken, which is home to Lilla Ölfabriken, Chad Beer and also Nerd Brewing, and this beer was actually given to me by Hannes from Nerd Brewing because he said to me, oh, I see that you've been going through a bit of a lager phase recently, so take one of these, give it a review and see what you think. So yeah, hopefully it turns out to be a nice beer, but if Hannes is recommending this one to me then I think it will be a very, very interesting beer. So hopefully it turns out to be a good one. As I've told you before, I have been enjoying a lot of lagers recently. I've been getting back into this style a little bit, so hopefully you guys enjoy my take on this one and hopefully you guys can try this beer for yourself at some point. So nice to return to Chad Beer after quite a little while, and it will be nice to give Elmeleven a little bit of a kind of proper review here on the channel as well. So let's see how we get on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Chad Beer before, and my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Elmeleven as well. Very first time these guys are featuring properly on the channel. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Chad Beer first off then, on to my brewery notes. So Chad Beer was founded by the Australian Chad Payton back in 2015 along with his wife Lisa. So Chad had previously been a geochemist and he was a long-time homebrewer back home in Australia as well, but he first encountered craft beer back in 2002 when he was in Idaho over in America, and he noticed these very small breweries over there, and he began experimenting a little bit and brewing back in his native Australia. He used to live in Melbourne, but apparently he also made his own malt for a period of time as well, which he said was a really fun and interesting experience, but also a little bit expensive, so he stopped that after a while but kept on with his home brewing. So he then got a research job in Copenhagen, and when he did this he lived over the border in Sweden. But originally these guys operated as a gypsy brewery, but then in 2015 they set up a 400 litre brewhouse in Sverige, which is just out to the kind of east of Malmö. I believe that's where the Sturup airport is if I remember rightly. But yeah, he set that brewery up in 2015 and the first beers were released from there in December. And then by 2016 he brewed around 20,000 litres. A little bit later of course though, he went and joined Lilla Ölfabriken in Malmö, and apparently the name Chad Beer was chosen just because it was a working title that he had when he was doing his homebrewing, and it just kind of stuck with him since. He's just never shaken it off basically since he's been brewing all of his beers. But as of June 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've released about 20 different beers through Systembolaget from what I gather, and yeah, it's been a little while actually since I've tried something from these guys. I've got a feeling that the last beer that I tried from them was it was called Bunyip, I think, if I remember rightly, because I think that's their brown ale, because I've seen that one recently in Hansa, but I haven't seen the other ones, if I remember correctly, but I recognised that beer when I saw it. So yeah, that was an English style brown ale, which was quite interesting. So yeah, these guys, they've got a mix of different things. I think their most well-known beer is the Fire and Fame or something it's called. So I need to see about reviewing that one for you on the channel at some point soon. But yeah, it's been a long time, as I say, since I reviewed one of the Chad beers. I think I reviewed one of these back in about 2016 or so, not long after I moved to Sweden actually. So yeah, I need to have a look at a couple of the other beers that these guys are doing. So yeah, nice to have these guys back on the channel after quite a while. They've got 20 different beers, like I said, but if you want to learn more about this brewery, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers and things that they've done. So yeah, go and check out the websites and stuff. But yeah, on to Elmeleven then. I knew this is their first kind of proper review here on the channel, which is always quite exciting. So Elmeleven, as I mentioned to you already, are also based in Malmö, and the company was founded by Anders Kvist. So outside of this brewing project, he works for Apple. And he started it a few years back, basically, as a sort of, it's what he says, it's a kind of form of artistic expression. So both from brewing the beer and from actually, making up the art and naming the beers and all this sort of thing. So his interest in beer started when his friend bought him what he called a non-industrial lager beer, and he was just blown away by this because he really started to realise, beer can be something a bit different. But soon after this, his girlfriend bought him a cheap beer kit that you basically added water to, and he felt that it would be, it must be possible to do things a lot better than this. And this pushed him into homebrewing. So he took part in various homebrewing competitions after he got started, and then he joined the -1 collective under the Bishop's Arms and Gustav Adolfs Torg, where a number of little Malmö breweries brew their beers, and it was actually in the Bishop's Arms there that he sold his first commercial beers. But production was very small over the last few years, only a few thousand litres, but more recently Anders has been brewing at Lilla Ölfabriken, where Nerd Brewing Chad Beer and of course Lilla Ölfabriken brew all of their things, and he's got several Systembolaget releases planned over the next few months, so it will be exciting to see the Elmeleven beers getting out there a little bit more. But mainly this brewery brew IPAs and sour beers, Berliner Weisses and things like that, but Anders says that he wants to experiment and keep trying new things as the brewery grows and grows. So who knows, we might see some stouts and things like that from these guys over the coming years. But yeah, the name Elmeleven is quite an interesting one, and apparently it comes from where he used to live, which was Almbacksgatan 11, so Almbacksgatan 11 as you would say in Swedish. So Alm in English is elm, so he used that, and then apparently this is just something where that stuck with him, so he basically Elm 11 as in the number, quite literally. So quite a cool name actually, I have to say, it is one that will stick. But as of June 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 30 different kinds of beer. I believe most of them have been released in cask and things like that. I don't think you're going to find too many bottles and things like that. So yeah, but as I say, there are more planned over the coming months, and over the last little while he has been brewing more and more at Lilla Ölfabriken and things like that, so you will see more Elmeleven beers over the next little while. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Elmeleven at the moment. A huge thank you to Anders, who sent me a big message through Instagram and gave me all the information on the brewery, because there really wasn't very much available on these guys, so a big thank you to him for telling me his story so that I can give it to you guys. And yeah, I look forward to trying more beer from him at some point in the future. So yeah, if you want to learn more about Elmeleven, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all of the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. That's the history segment of the video done. So let's get on and actually have a taste of the beer then. So as you can see, this one has poured really quite nicely actually. It's more like a kind of sunrise or something like that, or a sunset, than Elements. I mean, if I'm seeing the name Elements, I'm always thinking, the atoms and stuff like this, because it is almost a little bit like a kind of atom in a way in the sky, the way that's done. But I don't know if that is Anders who actually designed the label art from this one. It probably is, I think, because I think he has a little bit of, I'm sure he said he does a little bit of kind of graphic design and things, and I'm sure he did say that he did the labels himself, but I'm not 100% certain about that. There you can see the two brewery symbols on the side of the can, Chad Beer and Elmeleven, and as I said, a double dry hop lager with Mosaic and El Dorado. So Mosaic, as we know, is a very nice, both of these hops are American of course, but Mosaic, as we know, is a kind of tangerine orangey hop, and El Dorado gives you a lot of nice kind of juicy passion fruity notes and stone fruits and things like that. I've noticed that it has been getting used a little bit more recently. It disappeared for a long time, but I've noticed it's been getting a bit more popular with breweries over here in Europe. Maybe one of the big boys is ordering that in, and it's a lot easier to get for them now. I don't know. But yeah, a 440ml can, this one, 5.7% ABV, and this one apparently will be released through Systembolaget. I'm not sure exactly when this one is going to be released, but yeah, this one will be released through Sustainable Lager, I think maybe the start of next month. So yeah, let's get this guy out then, and we will get on with the tasting. Very curious to see how this beer turns out, and yeah, as I say, I've been enjoying lagers recently, so I'm particularly curious to see what this has in store for us. And again, thank you to Hannes from Nerd Brewing for giving me the can of this one to review before it made it onto the shop shelves. So yeah, as you can see with this beer, this is poured a lovely kind of pale golden straw, which is exactly what you would expect from a lager beer. If I shine the light through this, it does have a degree of haze to it. It's not as clear as some lager beers that you're going to come across, but yeah, it definitely has kind of what you would expect in that sense. But yeah, you can see there's a solid somewhere between a half and a 2/3 finger of quite a bumpy white head. That's going to fade away to be a very thin foamy layer. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall, it looks pretty nice, and it is pretty much what you would expect from a lager beer in terms of appearance. So let's have a closer look at that aroma then, and just see how we get on. It smells pretty good, I have to say. So straight away with this one, you can smell a little bit of a kind of pale malty base to it. You can smell a little bit of that kind of more crisp Pilsner malt in there as well. There is a wee bit of a kind of biscuity note to this one, but I would say that overall it does smell a bit like it's one of those kind of more wet, bready leaning lagers in terms of its aroma, I would say. It does come across as a little bit more Helles-like in its aroma than it does Pilsner, but the malts aren't too big and prominent in this one, I have to say. So yeah, keep that in mind when you try this beer. It's not got the kind of biggest and punchiest aroma, I would say. But yeah, it comes across as quite wet and bready. White bread, I would say, as well. Nice little bit of a kind of biscuity quality to it. Maybe one or two little slightly woody undertones in there as well, but yeah, pretty much kind of straight up as you would expect from a lager, and definitely leaning more towards that Helles side of things, rather than being a bit more kind of crisp and Pilsner-like, if you can say such a thing. In terms of the hoppiness then, there's a wee bit of there is a little bit of a kind of light earthiness in there. You will get some of that from the mosaic right enough, and that will come both from the dry hopping and from the and if they've used those hops in the base. I would suspect that they've probably used a different hop as the actual early edition hop, to be honest with you. Probably though, going by the aroma, I think there might be a German hop in here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's, you know, something a little bit like Columbus or whatever. But yeah, there's a little kind of touch of earthiness to this one. You've got a good little bit of floral aromaticity there, a lot of lighter grassy aromas as well, and you've also got some nice really nice fruity characters in there as well, which will mainly be coming from the dry hopping. As I've told you in these videos before, the main thing about hopping the beers is when you want the big bitterness out of them, you put a lot of early edition hops in. As you go later and later into the boil, normally you'll add more and more hops, but you get a trade-off between bitterness and flavour and aroma, if you like. So the later that you add hops into the boil, the more the more the less bitterness you get, but the more flavour and aroma you get out of them. And of course, if it's dry hopping later on, that is just simply flavour and aroma that you're going to get out of these guys. You usually add the dry hops when the beer is actually in the fermentation stage. So yeah, that's the main point to make here. But yeah, nice little bit of lighter grassiness. I would say that the green side of the hops in this beer really does lean towards that more kind of grassy, floral element, to be honest with you. Is more grassy than floral, I would say. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, you do get a little touch of a kind of tropical note out of it. You get a wee bit of that kind of soft, sort of passion fruity, very slightly pineapple-y note from the El Dorado, and you also get a wee bit of a kind of tangerine orange from the mosaic as well there. And I think we've got this one just at a good stage, because the thing you always have to watch with dry hopping is that if you have these beers a little bit too early, I always think with dry hop beers you've got to let them sit for maybe like 10 days or so, to just let the dry hops kind of do their thing, if you like, and just mellow out. Otherwise it just is, you just get a lot of kind of dustiness out of it. But yeah, I think we've got this one just in a really nice condition. So take a little bit of time and just enjoy that aroma before you get stuck into it there. I'm very curious to see what this one has in store for us. So yeah, this one is the Elements, a collaboration lager between Chad Beer and Elmeleven, both based in Malmö and Skåne here in the south of Sweden. A lager beer with Mosaic and Eldorado added as dry hops, coming in at 5.7% ABV. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål. That's nicely done, I have to say. I like that. It's definitely one of the thicker lagers I've come across recently, but I have to say it is pretty damn nicely done. So thumbs up to both Chad and Elmeleven in this one. I like that, slightly more oily and kind of thicker lager beer, which is nice. Yeah, that's pretty damn solid, I have to say. Let's get the rest of that out here. This beer is going to go down very, very quickly, I'll say. Yeah, I like how this one is going together. That's lovely. Yeah, when you get the chance to try this one, definitely do it. I think if you're into the lager beers like I am, you will definitely enjoy this one then. So yeah, let's try and break down the flavour a little bit more and just explain it. So yeah, straight away with this beer then, you get a nice kind of bready base. You can feel that just blanketing the middle of your tongue. It's definitely pale malty quality. You can feel that just going straight across the middle of your palate. It does have a little bit more of a kind of, as I say, rather than being a Pilsner, it does come across as more of a Helles. I would always describe the Helles as being a little bit more, kind of bready and things. And of course, if you talk about the German Helles, you also have to talk about the Czech Leitsak and the Czech Svetli's, of course. I always forget which way around it is. The Svetli, I think, is the very light one, and the Leitsak is the more amber coloured one, which is like a Vienna lager. But yeah, it does have a little bit more of that kind of slight breadiness that you would expect of a Helles or a Leitsak. It's kind of like that, but it's not quite as thick and bready as some of the Czech ones can be in my mind. The Czech ones, I always find them a bit thicker than the German ones. Because of course you've got Dunko, and then you've got Czerny on the Czech side, then you've got Schwarzbier and Tamavi on the Czech side as well. And the Doppelbock, of course, is another type of German lager. I'm a big fan of these traditional German and Czech styles, actually. I wish I could review more of them for you on the channel, actually. But I think this is a really nice one. This gets a thumbs up from me. I like this. This is a really good kind of summer release beer, actually. So I hope this one becomes a bit of a regular. I think both of them have done a solid job with this one. So yeah, if you're a fan of the lagers like me, you will enjoy this. But yeah, as I say, you get that nice kind of pale malty quality. That blankets the middle of your tongue. In the middle third of your tongue, it's nice. It really is quite nice and smooth. You've got a nice little bit of a kind of sweeter biscuity quality. You do get a little bit of a sweetness in the very centre of your tongue there. It's almost got a little bit of a kind of caramelly tint to it in the centre of your palate, but then you start to get a few more kind of biscuity things coming out of it a bit later on. So yeah, I really like how this one goes together. The flavour of this one, I think, is really pretty damn nicely done, I have to say. It's just, everything just fits together. It's one of these beers, it doesn't really do anything surprising with the style, if you like. It's just really nicely done and gives you everything you want from the style. But yeah, in the middle of your palate, definitely a little bit of a sweeter caramel, and as you move further out from that, a bit more of McVitie's and digestive biscuity-like, and underneath you've got that kind of pale malty, but still quite light lagery type feel to it in there. So there will be a bit of Pilsner malt or something like that in here. It does have that lighter, almost wet white bready kind of quality to it. As you go further to the back of the palate, that back third of your tongue, you've definitely got a nice little bit more of a, there is a wee touch of a kind of graininess comes out of it, but I think that kind of smoothness that you have underneath really pushes towards the back of the palate as well. I like how that goes together in this beer. But yeah, on the malt base, there's not really much else to kind of report like that. As I said, the whole beer is pretty straightforward, but it's just really well crafted, and there's nothing wrong with that. Beers don't have to be madly complex these days. They do just have to be a little, they do just have to be well crafted in terms of their flavours, and this one certainly is that. In terms of the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of light earthiness. There's something that telling me here that they've probably used a German hop as, as the as the kind of bittering hop for this one. The other option, of course, would be like an American Magnum or something like that. But you do get a little touch of earthiness out of this one, and it's almost like a noble earthiness in the back corners of the palate. But as you come further forward, you can feel it gets a little bit herbal, then it gets a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic towards the front corners of the palate, and then round the front curve of the tongue, it's just that little bit lighter and grassy. And overall, I would say that the green side of this beer leans towards those kind of softer, lighter, grassy elements. And of course behind the front curve of the palate, that's in the front third of your tongue, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity esters start to roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, you get both. You really do get both the El Dorado and the mosaic coming out in this one. It's very nice. It really is nice how you get that balance between them. So if you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, there's a wee bit of a kind of passion fruity note to it. It's quite a soft passion fruit, to be honest with you, as well. Then you start to get a few kind of pineapple-y notes there as well. I'd say it leans. It's kind of, yeah, the stone fruity notes and things that you get out of this one are really very nice and very light and just quite solidly done, to be honest with you. So I like how that side of this beer goes together, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I do like how it goes together. To be honest with you, the fruitiness in this is just really good. The tropical notes at the back are nice, because what you'll feel is you get the tropical notes in the earlier part of the flavour, but then as you go later on, in the very front tip of the tongue almost, you get that little oily bubble where the kind of mosaic-y notes push their way out of the beer, and that's the kind of lighter tangerine oranges. But at the same time, I say light, it's the tangerine oranges are a little bit more of a kind of oily quality, to be honest with you. So I do like how this one goes together. As I say, the fruity side of this beer is really nicely done. I think the tangerines and the oranges from the mosaic really comes out a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste. So a big thumbs up. A big thumbs up from me, this beer, I have to say. I really like how everything goes together in this one. I think they've both pulled off a really, really solid lager here. It strikes me as being more of a kind of Helles, to be honest with you. But I would say, in terms of the lagers I've had recently, it does strike me as having a little bit of an almost ale character to it, because it does have a little bit more of an oily mouthfeel and things, and on that point we should move on to the mouthfeel, to be honest, I feel. I would say with this beer, I would describe this one as being at the top end of light bodied, bottom end of mid bodied. It's kind of in there. The carbonation does give you a degree of crispness, but also at the same time it's a little bit smooth. The mouthfeel for the lager type beer, I think, is a little bit oily. It is almost like a Helles lager, but with that slightly oilier quality that you'd expect of a German Dunkel or a Czech Cherny, something like that. It does have just that little bit more oily character to it, but that suits the fruitiness that the beer has. It helps the fruitiness come out just that little bit more. But yeah, I really like how that side of the beer comes out in this one. So yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me, this. I really like how this goes together. Yeah. It is pretty damn solid, I have to say. Yeah, I do like what they've done with this one. In terms of the kind of bitterness and stuff out of this one, I think this is a fairly standard, about 20-ish, 25 IBU lager beer. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. The malt base, like I say, is quite light and smooth, but it does have a little degree of sweetness in the middle of it, and you've got some lovely juicy and slightly oily fruits coming out of the beer as well. So yeah, as I say, this one gets a big thumbs up from me. I really like how this goes together, and yeah, it's just really well done. El Dorado, it's cool to see how that works with Mosaic. I don't know how many times I've had El Dorado and Mosaic, but it's quite nice to see this pairing just on its own as well, and it does work very, very well. So yeah, I have to say Chad and Elmeleven have pulled off a solid beer here, so big thumbs up to them for that. And it was nice to review this one for you, I think, before it comes out in Systembolaget. I'm sure this one is released on the 1st of July or whatever, but yeah, this is a solid lager beer in my opinion. So big thumbs up to both breweries here, and I hope they release a few more like this over the next little while. This is pretty damn solid, but I look forward to trying a few more beers from Elmeleven as well, because they do have a really good reputation actually, so I would recommend that. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Chad Beer and from Elmeleven. I will need to see about reviewing one or two more of the Chad Beer range, and if Elmeleven have got a few other beers coming out, they will be featuring on the channel over the next little while. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Chad Beer, check out Elmeleven. We will see what these guys release over the next little while. Until the next time, it's Slanger just now, and I'll catch you guys later. This one was the Elements, a 5.7% dry hopped, double dry hop lager with Mosaic and Eldorado from Chad Beer and Elmeleven, both based in Malmö in Skåne here in the south of Sweden. A lovely, really nicely done lager that I have to say I would love to revisit again. Slanger, Skull, catch you guys very soon, and make sure you check out this beer. Cheers.